This right here to my right is an absolute disgrace, and the player should be ashamed, his agent should be ashamed, and everybody involved in this deal should be absolutely ashamed at what they have done here, because it's just absolutely disgusting, underhanded tactics by Ben Jacobs, Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein, the cartel pushers that were seen last season doing this exact same thing to get Alexander Isak out of his deal at Newcastle United, and they've done it again this season, and they continue to keep doing this. It's underhanded tactics. Liverpool's big pusher on this, and all of them teams are doing it. And it's just underhanded, dirty, insider trading tactics. We can see it here from what Keith Downey has said. You know, Keith Downey is literally said here, Newcastle thought the deal, had a deal in place for Victor Munoz before late Liverpool hijack. Newcastle had a fee of 29 million plus 4.3 million pounds accepted by Osasuna, and the player had agreed personal terms and told Nufc he wanted to sign. Agents' fees were also agreed. Newcastle had the wheels in motion for a medical over in the US and were on the verge of completing the deal, but they were instructed to wait over the last 24 hours by the players' representatives, and Liverpool, of course, have swooped in, and it's quite obvious what has happened here. It's quite obvious that his agent has went to Liverpool, told them how much we're paying, how much we're giving in wages. Liverpool have paid that more on top to the agent, as we have seen in the past with Chelsea, and we've seen in the past with other teams like that, where they pay that extra fee to make sure that they get that player. And it's underhanded tactics by the agent of this player, Victor Munoz, and it is underhanded tactics by these clubs. And something needs to be sorted on this, because, like I say, we've seen it many times before. We've seen it, you know, with Chelsea, we've seen it with City, we've seen it with Southampton, we've seen it with many clubs doing this, and it is insider trading, and it needs to stop. And then you've got the cartel pushers in Ben Jacobs, Fabrizio Romano, and David Ornstein right there. Way too much power, these guys, by the way. All they are is journalists. All they are basically is just the same as a guy like me sitting here reporting on the news, and they have far too much power in the game for my liking. Far too much power in the game to be able to influence deals and move things around. You can see it, you know, with the Romano tweets, the way he's, you know, always got an undertone to his tweets in the way that he talks about tweets on Newcastle, transfers on Newcastle. It's just disgusting behaviour by this guy. And not just him, you know, like I say, Ben Jacobs, David Ornstein. I'm hitting out with all of them. I am sick to death with these, you know, journalists like these guys who are just literally sitting there, the succubus of life, by the way. This is absolutely disgusting way to make a living by them. You know, sitting there and literally orchestrating deals right, left, and centre. People like that should not have any power whatsoever in the game. They really shouldn't have that kind of power in the game. They're just basically journalists. You don't see Keith Downey going out there and influencing the deals like Fabrizio does, or you don't see, you know, Lee Ryder doing that, or, you know, Craig Hope doing that. You don't see these guys doing it. So why should, you know, these other ones like Fabrizio, Ben Jacobs, David Ornstein be able to have so much power in the game? Because they got a couple of guesses right on a few transfers many years ago. That's basically all it is. But I don't want to go on anymore. You know, I don't want to rant on forever on this. At the end of the day, it's a lad's loss. You know, he goes to Liverpool, see what happens for him there. But I mean, he's missing out on a really good project here at Newcastle United, and we give them a really good vision of what was going to happen. You know, when he joins Newcastle, and if he hasn't agreed, you know, to come at the end of the day, he's agreed all the things. But if his agent doesn't see that is a good option for his client, then, you know, I feel sorry for the lad, because he is going to end up sitting, you know, on the bench at Liverpool, like many other players have done in the past where they've turned down deals. and went for basically more money. And to be honest, if he's went for a bigger fee, do we really want him? As he went for a bigger wage, then do we really want him at Newcastle United? Because that to me screams that he is a merchant. That screams to me that is he really about football? Is his passion really behind his ability as a player, or is it just basically about how much money he can make whilst he's playing football? And I get it, at the end of the day, football is a short lifespan. You don't have a long time in it as a player, but to be sacrificing your chances of being in a really good project and going on to win something absolutely amazing down the line, it's just not right. It's not right at all. But anyway, let's move on from that. Let's move on, of course, and talk about the news regarding Sandro Tonali, because it looks like Sandro Tonali could be, of course, on his way out of Newcastle United. We keep seeing many news articles popping up right, left, and centre. And like I've said in the previous video when I was talking about Sandy leaving Newcastle United, only for the right fee. It's got to be, bare minimum 100 million. But now I'd say maybe even bare minimum 120 million when you look at the recent news that Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea has went to Real Madrid for 120 million. You see Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest being thrown around for 125 million. So if them guys are getting thrown around for that much, then Sandro Tonali's got to be in that ballpark as well for the transfer fee. But we keep getting, little bits here and there saying that it would have to be 85 to 90 million. But if, like I say, Enzo Fernandez has been thrown in there for 120 to Real Madrid, 125 for Elliot Anderson, Sandro Tonali's got to be in that ballpark, definitely, in my opinion. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, of course. And we are now moving on from, of course, Victor Munoz and Sandro Tonali to talk about, of course, England's game last night. I've got to say, we're putting a really good performance in the second half. First half was a little drab, I thought. The goals, of course, coming from none other than, of course, Harry Kane to open the scoring with a penalty. Then Harry Kane again with a header. Then we're seeing Jude Bellingham score, and we're seeing Marcus Rashford score as well. There is a massive annoyance, however, with the game last night, England against Croatia, of course, ending 4-2. But the massive annoyance for me was the fact that while Anthony Gordon was on the field, Anthony Gordon wasn't getting many balls passed to him on the left flank. But then as soon as Marcus Rashford came on, the balls were non-stop to the left flank. So that's something that needs to be sorted by Tuchel. Clearly something's not right there within the England team. And I don't like to be that person, to spread rumours around. But clearly something's not right there when Anthony Gordon isn't getting the service that he should be getting. And then as soon as Rashford came on, the service came in there, and Rashford was able to get a goal off the back of it. Now, if we had have done that sooner to Anthony Gordon, the scoreline could have been a lot more than 4-2. But the first half, we weren't all that great in it, to be honest. The second half, I think we came alive a bit more, and we started to show a little bit more of that energy and that drive. And I think if we can continue to play the way we did in the second half, then I think we will have a much better chance in this tournament, and we could maybe go very far in this tournament as well. Looking at the game of the other two teams that are in the group as well last night, I wasn't impressed, to be honest. It was a very late goal in that game as well for, I think it was Ghana who scored, but to be honest, it was a very lackluster game. I thought that the Ghana-Panama game after ours, and it didn't interest me at all. So I am quite looking forward to seeing what we can do up against Ghana and Panama, especially after the showing that they gave last night in their game. But let us know your thoughts anyway down in the comments below. Let us know what your thoughts are on the Victor Munoz deal to Liverpool. Like I say, we'll move on. We'll go to the next target like we always do. but it is annoying to see, you know, that underhanded tactics once again, like we've seen last summer from the likes of Liverpool, from the likes of Fabrizio Romano, from the likes of Ben Jacobs and David Ornstein. You know, this constant push of underhanded backroom dealing tactics just needs to stop. It really does, because it is ruining the game. It's spoiling the sport. And like I've said, you know, people like Fabrizio, Ben Jacobs, and David Ornstein have far too much power in the game for me. Like, and when you consider that basically all they are is a journalist, basically all they are is just like I am, you know, sitting here in a room reporting on the news as I see it and giving you my take on it. And that is basically all them guys are. And they've got far too much power in the game just because they've gotten a couple of guesses right here and there, because that's all it is really. You know, that's all they've gotten is a couple of guesses here and there. And now people think, you know, they're a transfer guru. You know, at the end of the day, I could sit here for a whole year and eventually I'm going to get a couple of guesses right as well. Does that make me a transfer guru? I don't think so. Till next time, hit like, share, subscribe to the channel. However, lads.